Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Boy and the Heron. This is definitely the weirdest Hayao Miyazaki film, which is definitely saying something, but I think a lot of that has to do with Hayao Miyazaki's been doing this a long time. This is, his umpteenth final film. I'm sort of used to it at this point. Anytime I see any of his films, that it's the last one. Pretty much everyone I've seen as a new theatrical release has been a final film, so ever since Mononoke. So good for you, Hayao Miyazaki. I think there are certain older directors who, at this point, we've seen a lot of our legends, Scorsese, Spielberg, and Hayao Miyazaki, and the different avenues they're taking as they're older. And I think certain ones care about their legacy, how you will view them after they're gone, and certain ones are just going to continue their creative process and what they're interested in creatively, a thesis statement of their life's work, and pushing that to the next degree. And I think Hayao Miyazaki, ever since he's been working in animation, has wanted to push animation and the animated feature further. And I mean, he's written about this isn't just projection, in places it's never been. And I think he has already done that. But it seems like he cares very little for you being able to necessarily follow this movie in a coherent way, and seems to play with that narrative and make this uberly confusing. It reminds me much more of his friend Isao Takahata than it does him. In fact, the opening sequence during the firebombing of Japan, really, in all seriousness, I was like, whoa, that's like the most Takahata thing I've seen in a Miyazaki film. It felt very much like Takahata. It did not feel like something Miyazaki would do. And in fact, I think this whole film sort of felt like that. It felt like someone who, I think the later things after Only Yesterday and Grave of the Fireflies, he was just doing what he wanted to do. He wasn't trying to make these overarching, he was different than Miyazaki was the great storyteller. Takahata was like far more experimental. And this feels like Miyazaki, now that Takahata's gone, wants to take on that experimental edge that he never really did when Takahata was around. He was weird and strange and took on different things and was a student of literature and children's literature, but this is like a whole next level kind of advanced text of that. It feels like he's almost like this eschews the other things, like he doesn't want to deal with that kind of stuff anymore. He's done that, and he's correct, he has done that. And I don't think he cares about how, it's not like The Fabelmans or something. I think this is far more like what Scorsese does, where Scorsese at a certain point wanted to prove he could make one of those movies again. And then when you get to Killer the Flower Moon, he's like, well, I'm going to hold on this shot because I kind of want to, and I'm Scorsese, and I can get that to work, and he does. And I think the same thing about this film. Now, this is super confusing. I have no clue how this became like one of the bigger Studio Ghibli hits in America. That is so weird to me. I don't get it. But I'm happy that it is. But it's not like probably the least audience friendly film he's ever made, and it feels like he almost like doesn't care as much while also being very much himself, the student of. You can feel Alice in Wonderland in here. You can feel Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in here. You can feel a film that's been a huge influence on him throughout his whole life, The King and the Mockingbird, which I did a review on. It has many different titles, but it's in the end card, and it'll be in the cards up here and stuff if you want to check that out, because I did a review of that, and I quite like that film. But that's a strange, weird movie, and this is possibly even weirder. It's about a young boy whose mother is killed in the fire bombings of Japan, and then his father decides to remarry her sister, his aunt, and then they start to move in kind of the, I guess, more the country of Japan, or the country by means, like, not the city. They're moving out of the city to the country of Japan. As they get there, the boy sees a kind of weird tower or something, and he's like kind of feels a calling to it. At the same time, this heron is sort of staring at him and looking at him. And then the heron starts talking to him, and he starts getting more involved in this tower that he hears an old great uncle of his aunt's disappeared in and made all this stuff, and like there was magic involved. And he kind of goes into this weird world, sort of looking for his dead mother and trying to find more out, I guess. I don't know if I could accurately describe this, even if I tried, but that's sort of it. I saw this subtitled because I'm real like that, I guess. No, I mean, it doesn't matter, to be perfectly honest, with Miyazaki films, because he's even said he likes sometimes like Pocoroso, he likes the French dub more. So it doesn't matter. I just like seeing the subtitles usually first. Maybe at some point I will see the dub, I don't know. But if you're wondering, that seems to be a point I'm supposed to say, I guess. So I don't know about Robert Pattinson or anything. Yes, The King and the Mockingbird thing, which is a very confusing, weird French animated film, I felt all throughout this. And I often felt when I was watching it, because the rules of each of the worlds he would go into would change and only be presented to him like almost as an afterthought, and like it definitely does not want it explained to you. And I would say a storyteller as smart as Hayao Miyazaki would know what he's doing to that regard. I think some people roll their eyes at this and go like, I hate it and stuff. To me, it's like, I don't think he's like senile and forgot how story works or something. I think he's like, a great student of that and looked at it and went, okay, well, I wanted to do this way. What if the narrative is like that? I do think the boy, the main character, he just kind of stares like this, like the whole movie is just like him going like and stuff. And it's like, that is super hard to relate to somebody like that, because he's just like so stoic. It's like impossible to like see what's going on in there. And I get like, again, like totally conscious choice, I think, but this film feels very impenetrable in a lot of ways. I do want to watch this a bunch of times. I do want to like discover it and see what's going on. I want to figure it out. But at the same time, I think if you're watching it like once, I did feel like afterwards I was like, did I get it? And it's a boy getting lost in kind of this weird sort of Alice in Wonderland world. And I've heard people say, or the theory that it's like, what is it, when you're having a stressful time, how you get lost in a fictional world. I sort of feel that in this film, but I also think it feels that in a fictional world, but you also feel that within that fictional world is your life. Like the reason you like something that's fictional is your life. You relate to a character because they're like your father or your mother or a friend that you had or a relative. And I felt that going throughout that, like he's mainly about trying to find his mother. Like he's, in a sense, like he's escaping the current reality, but it still is a reflection of his reality. And I sometimes didn't feel it was escapism that he's falling into. I felt like it was like how you deal with life within a fictional story, which is almost goes to the fact that's like at a certain point, this maybe felt like more of a retirement film, because like I need to leave this and deal with myself, which he won't do. But if you read up on him, he's definitely won't. But it did feel like he's like, this is still a reflection of my life, but you leave this at a certain point to deal with your own life. But that is still your life itself within that world. And you can't just act like it's not a part of a sense of reality, even if it doesn't make any sense, even if that is nonsensical. And with the parakeets, the weird, I actually sort of like the parakeet design, the parakeet general or something. It's a very strange idea, and like the various characters are really cool. It's a Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki directed, traditionally animated film. It looks gorgeous and beautiful. You could literally just like get fucked up and watch this and stare at the screen, and like that's a meal in itself visually. It's nice to see him mess around creatively. I don't think he does that. He's not known for that. He's a very smart storyteller, and there's a lot of parts that make sense, and like when you watch it again, you're like, oh, that is for this and stuff. And usually most of it you can pick up on, right, with like Ponyo, like Pocoroso, like Totoro, things like that, but later you'll notice little details. In this, I definitely think I'm gonna have to watch it a few times. I don't know if this is the end of him. At a certain point, he keeps getting older. I don't know how long this will continue. I feel like this is a sort of fitting end, but I felt like that about The Wind Rises. Is this sort of the odd epilogue, or is this the true ending of sorts? It's not really a film for kids. I think a lot of people might, because of Studio Ghibli, I saw this partly because I had to see it, and I really love the movies, but also because my daughter wanted to know if she could see it, and I'm saying no about that. I don't think it's a kid's film whatsoever, but I think that's what made Ghibli interesting is, his filmography. It's like, you get A Wind Rises, and you get a Ponyo, and you get Howl's Moving Castle, you get Spirited Away next to Princess Mononoke, And when you get you can look at that section on Max or whatever, wherever this will be in the future, and you look at all the films, and there's certain ones that are appropriate for certain audiences and certain ones that aren't, and they're just different modes and different ideas. And I think that's what the strength of Hayao Miyazaki as an animator, what Studio Ghibli wanted to accomplish. I mean, this is like when him and Takahata really started and became feature directors, they wanted to expand the animated medium. And if, in a sense, like this is maybe sort of the ultimate thesis statement, end of the essay or whatever. It's like the penultimate thing, because not only did they make a really strange, weird animated film, Hayao Miyazaki made it. It's a huge hit in America. It's a huge hit everywhere. He made this weird, strange animated film, and he was able to make tons of people see it, and to show that these kind of things can be marketable, and you can accomplish that as a director and be an auteur animated feature film director. I mean, how many auteur animation directors do we have to his caliber, or even name animation directors that can sell a movie on their name like this? It's inspiring and it's amazing, and I think it's a dense movie and it's a hard film to completely figure out. I think you get, I wasn't like lost, and I don't, but I do think it is a film that wants to mess with you and mess with your expectations of this. But I think when you think of the Alice story, what Disney did to that story, and not the Tim Burton horrible one, but the animated one, they made that palatable and made it understandable, and even though it's a dream world and it's weird and strange, they wanted to make sure you understood it, and it's very clear in a sense, even though it is still surreal to a certain degree. But then you look at what Jan Svankenheimer, I believe, made with his Alice. That's strange and weird, and it's totally different adaptation. I think this is to say, if you're going to do this, like, it's obviously influenced by, I think, C.S. Lewis's Narnia, it's, and Alice in Wonderland, and I'm sure there's other, kids in different dimensions things, but in different dimensions, how we perceive time and animals and people and rules would be different. It's interesting to see someone play with that in the way that he is. It feels like you have entered a strange new world, because of course the rules would make sense like they do here. And that is, I think, very interesting. It kind of made me think about, like, well, what should we really, it's one thing to be like, look at, Spider-Verse, where it's like, oh, well, Spider-Man, but he's in, Mumbai and stuff, or it's Spider-Man, but he's this and stuff. And that's, like, fun. I enjoy that. But, like, why not take it to a different level, where it's like, oh, well, they're parakeets, and, like, this is the rules here, and it aged this way because you were out of here, and, like, I made a thing that's your mother, but she's really water or whatever. Just, like, why don't we play along with that? And it plays with your mind's eye and plays with your imagination, and it makes you kind of confused and feeling like you don't get it, because it's testing things that you didn't know were tested as a viewer, and pushing you in elements that you never knew you could. And I think Miyazaki, the auteur animation director who wants to push the medium forward, succeeded in ways that I don't know if he ever has in any feature film as much as he did here, because he was much more interested in being a solid storyteller before this. And although those did push the animation medium forward to degrees that I'd say no other animation director ever did, when you look at this film, I think he has shown what you can do with animation, how the idea that he believed, as well as Tiny Toons did, that anything can happen in an animated film and in a cartoon. And he showed that in this film. I don't think it's his best film. I don't think it's the film I will think of whenever he dies. But I think it is a film that shows his ambition and his creativity just as well as his true masterpieces did. I think I'm going to have to watch it a few times, although those are all films I love, so even if I really liked it, I'd still have to do that. But I think this is a very confusing, odd film. Reminds me a bit more of Malick than it does traditionally of, like, the stories you think of when you think of Ponyo. You think of Disney, you think of other great storytellers like this. This feels like a storyteller who's messing with you, who's playing with your expectations, who you have multiple interpretations of. And I don't think The Boy and the Heron, it is an advanced text, but what a glory of an amazing advanced text it was, and I'm happy to have seen it. And I think if you're going to go into it, you will kind of wonder, what the hell was that? But I think it's like, what the hell was that, and how awesome it is that we got a director to get to that level. It's kind of the appreciation I have for it, but I'm still kind of questioning whatever the fuck I just watched. So if you've seen The Boy and the Heron and you would like to talk about it, then comment below. in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.